Today in the news is a lot of talk about the O'Keefe Media Group expose on Blackwater. And the gist of the conversation is that Blackwater and these big financial services firms are using other people's money to manipulate and profit in the marketplace. And you might be wondering, is this something new? Is this something that's always been here? Is this something you can benefit from? I'm Justin Hitt with Sustainable Wealth Secrets. So I've talked about in the past, your power to turn income into wealth comes from your ability to organize people and systems. So when a large investment firm, Blackwater, Vanguard, or any of these firms that are in the news today, accumulate other people's money through the promise of profit and apply that money for social change, it seems like something new. But with media today, it's very transparent that these things exist. However, they've been around since the Rockefellers and since Standard Oil and other forms of monopoly. Now, these organizations seek monopoly as much as the government says monopoly shouldn't exist. Even you are seeking monopoly, control over your income. Wealth builds choice, wealth builds legacy, and this gives you strength and power in a marketplace. So I'm not going to judge whether or not Blackwater is doing these things. I assume all corporations and investments firms do these things because I've taught methods in the past, such as syndication, where you form an LLC, you bring on 20 or so investors. Those investors all work towards mutual gain, which is the profit of individuals. And, and this is often done through family offices, through hedge funds, through other types of business ventures. Now, my approach is that you're going to do this in a business environment and you're going to serve the interests of your customers because there are times when organizations form, and again, I'm not judging any of these financial services firms, and this, of course, is my opinion and not the opinions of my private clients. That little weasel clause is in there because some of the clients I help them do these things through strategic marketing, through strategic public relations, through structure that I am teaching you here in the Sustainable Wealth Secrets program. Now, they don't want this stuff in the news, and the news doesn't want to present this information because the news itself is an arm of this established system that takes your money or the money of those who are less informed, pulls the money together, and then produces some kind of gain. So here's an example. In the banking system, you deposit money in the bank, and that's presented as a safe and reliable place to protect your money. Yet the bank only gives you 1 or 2% interest. And when we do the basic math, we understand that if inflation is 4% interest, then you're losing 2% of your money every month. Now we have to look at this is part of the follow the money. What is the bank doing with your money? Well, the bank is lending out your money 10 to 1. So the bank is able to take your deposits and then turn it into the business of lending it out, which in fact they are generating revenues of 5%, 10% on that money, and they're giving you 1% or 2%. That seems like it's okay. But as you go through my cash parking plan, you'll very often see that if you're not making 4, 5, even 10% on your cash, then you're not properly stewarding that money in order for it to grow. Now, let's say you are able to produce 5% on your cash. Now, how would an organization do that? Well, one of the ways, for example, could be delivering a service to a marketplace. So you've pulled up some money, you started a business, and now you're providing a service to the marketplace. The customers are going to give you money to receive that service, which has a perceived value far higher than the cost of that service. That's how we have the functionality of an ecosystem developed within our wealth building. Because if you're doing the service for less, if you're selling the service for less than it costs you to produce it, then you're going to lose money. We're not in the business of losing money, we're in the business of accumulating wealth. Listen carefully. The customer gives you their money in surplus of the cost of goods and services, and some of that is reinvested either in better understanding your customers so you can deliver additional goods and services. It could be adjusting lobbying to adjust laws so you can continue to deliver your product or service, or even investments in new markets. Now, when I say investments in new markets, that can include lobbying, that can include uh, advertising campaigns, that can include changing public opinion in order to be more favorable towards your company. It could be covering up or addressing a negative uh, uh, relationship risk type issue that came up. My point being is that the company doesn't use their own money. This entity that is a company where you put the seed money in is now using your money as a seed. But if that seed is planted in fertile soil, planted in an environment where it gets the right inputs, it will grow. And then it's now using other people's money to achieve results. Now, you have to function this system, you have to design this system well, you have to manage it well, it has to function as designed, and ultimately then you can peel off a little bit of an investment. So you put money in, you're yielding a dividend. You may have lent the money to the company. Again, it's all about structure, but then now you're going to receive the money back. Where does the money come from? It comes from the customers. Okay. Now there could be a tax break. Tesla started on tax breaks and money from the government. There could be other money from other organizations, but no matter where the money comes from, it eventually comes from individual labor. So somebody's work in the case of BlackRock, in the case of Vanguard, in the case of Fidelity, somebody's working at a job, delivering products and services in the marketplace. They're taking their surplus earnings and investing it with an organization with the expectation of some kind of return. Now, when we talk about the social manipulation and social engineering, what if you have a pool of money large enough that now you can pressure organizations in order to do your will, knowing that certain things that they do may cause their stock to go down in price, which will allows you to buy it at a lower price. Remember, we've talked about in the past buying on the bad news, and then allows them to turn around and sell because they got better tools. So what was being described by this BlackRock individual, and by the way, this individual is not sharing anything that's surprising of me. I've been in Fortune 100 banks. I've worked with executive teams. I've worked in environments where we've discussed these things both politically and otherwise, and this is normal practice. Now, regular people delude themselves to think that large corporations are looking out for their best interest. They think that large companies, large countries, large political groups are looking out for your best interest. They are not. I specifically teach a system of stewardship where you're contributing funds to things that you want and you're supporting those things and you're being a good steward of the money you receive. But an outsider with differing beliefs than you may look at what you're doing as corrupt, as scheming, as otherwise not in their interest. We have to understand the dualism of insider versus outsider. Our goal is to help you earn a high income, transform that income to wealth, and then buy access to systems that help you maintain that wealth. Now, my hope is that you're going to use this and not hurt people because a company that deliberately causes another company to fail just so the prices go down, so their stock price goes down, so that they can accumulate shares, and then they're going to turn around and pump it back up. Well, that's known as a pump and dump in the marketplace. It's illegal. The FTC, the Securities and Exchange Commissions, a lot of organizations are, have regulation against that. And my premise is we want as least friction as possible so that we're going to stay within regulations. We're at least going to be on paper within regulations, but ultimately, we're not going to do something that the general public would create a reputational risk. And so that limits me in the clients I can accept at times, but understand that these methods that we're teaching here, the strategic relations methods to turn your income into wealth and opportunity, are no different than what the Rockefellers used 100 years ago or BlackRock is doing today. The key is scaling it to where you are in life. See, when news comes out about BlackRock's doing this, a lot of people's response is, "Oh, I knew it. Those evil companies, they're using our money to put a system in place that's oppressing me." Well, that's entirely possible. So what are you going to do about it? Oh, these people have a monopoly and they're taking advantage of that. This corporatism. What are they do? Oh, BlackRock, Rockefeller, Gates, JP Morgan, Soros, all devils. Okay, so what are we going to do about it? The only thing you can really do about it is to build your own wealth, your own resources, your own prosperity, and set up a parallel economic system that challenges the system in which you don't like. And that's exactly what they're doing. They see these ESGs as being beneficial to the common good, or at least profitable to the people who can leverage them, just like politicians build political action committees and stuff. This is truth, and war is a racket. How do we benefit from it? Now, there's a number of ways we can benefit. We did mention the structure. How are you structuring your money? How are you structuring your day-to-day activities? We mentioned having clear goals and objectives. Are you a pawn of someone else's game, or do you build your own game? We've talked about transforming your income into wealth. And in order to do that, you need to have free net cash flow invested in such a way that it produces additional free net cash flow, which you then are able to retain by how you apply that capital. We talked about the real fact that there is social and other types of engineering that's going on. So are we consuming the news, or are we part producing the news? Are we consuming the rhetoric and driving towards a narrative, or are we consistently thinking about our decisions so that we are good stewards of our resources? This does require a strong ethic because it's very easy to get sucked in. I know I've even thought myself, I've been in situations where there's been bad stuff going on and I opted out of it. But I've thought later when things got a little tough that, would it have been better off if I just stayed in there? If I'd have been better off to do their bidding, to be a minion, because maybe I would have one day. Well, the truth of it is, in the psychology of what we're talking about here, many of these individuals are promised big things that they will never receive. There are world leaders who are lapdogs to other world leaders, waiting on a promise of power that may never come. There are individuals with what you would consider to be significant wealth who feel that they're poor and that at any minute now they could lose everything. I want the wealth of emotional context as much as the wealth of financial context. Remember, in Sustainable Wealth Secrets, we're talking about wealth that goes beyond generations, wealth in ethic, wealth in application, wealth in means. And so, me opting out of something while I may have, for a fleeting moment, wondered what would have been like if I'd stayed around, what would have been like if I'd have just done what they asked me to do instead of doing what's right, that goes away because I know I can sleep at night because I didn't hurt anybody. Can sleep at night because I'm not going to be on the end of a federal case. Organizations that I've worked with, some of them are a lot different on the inside than they are on the outside. And of course, I'm not saying anything particular because they have big lawyers and things like that. But what I'm saying is that it should not be a surprise to you what is being leaked about Blackwater, and that in the financial services industry and the big business world, it is known that you accumulate other people's money and decide the fate of those individuals by growing that money. And then even when you are growing it, they're peeling off the top far more than you could have got. Now, are there ways that you can take your own money and invest it to get those kind of returns? Yes, but if you don't have a lot of money, they don't have the scale. And so what they're doing is they're using scale and leverage. Are these organizations bad? No, the organization is just a piece of paper and an organization chart. The organization itself is not good or bad. It could be the people running it are good or bad. It could be the people running it are wrapped up in some kind of social belief system or some mass hysteria. But you, as an individual, for your family office, for your close familiar friends, and you have to do what's right. In this case, it could be a parallel economy. Now, knowing that these people are manipulating social programs, you might want to relook at the social programs. You might want to relook at what's popular in the news today, and then ultimately make decisions in your own day to day activities. Now, while we're not financial advisors, my organization works on the strategy of wealth building. We recommend we have you work with financial advisors, CPAs, lawyers, and other things. But our team is about that critical decision making and helping you have a plan for success. If you'd like to speak with somebody about your plan for success and you qualify, we are available for consultations. And of course, we have the coaching program that's available at www.sustainablewealthsecrets.com. Now, the program is not currently open to the general public. You will have to apply for the program. It includes an interview, which I'll try to understand your situation better and whether or not we're going to be a good fit for you. But do understand that between the podcast and the newsletter, if you haven't got started on transforming your income into wealth, or if you believe that it's not something that's possible, then you're not paying attention. There is a world around you just slightly outside the veil, which is constantly transforming, accumulating, organizing other people's money, creating opportunity, creating wealth, transforming the world. And today, while your situation may not be where you want it to be, it can easily shift when you have the right resources, when you have the right focus, and when you have the right insight to do so. I hope I've delivered to you some of that insight, sharing that so what if BlackRock's doing that? You can do whatever you want contrary to BlackRock, and you can organize resources and you can get the licenses, or you could do it at your scale in a place that's comfortable for you. I'm here to help you do that. If you're interested, I'm Justin Hitt with Sustainable Wealth Secrets. And I want to thank you for being a part of this podcast. We started more than 4 years ago on this particular channel, but this podcast has been around since I've worked for a lot of organizations that do this kind of stuff. They're not trying, they think they're doing good. They're not. They're not evil necessarily. They're not good necessarily evil. They're not they're not good. The jungle is neutral, is my point. Anyway, I'm going to wrap this up. I just want you to know that we've been talking about this for years. If you aren't already in our programs, if you're not already benefiting from this, and you've got a six-figure or better job right now, or a six-figure or better business income, and you're not using these strategies, then you are at risk. You are at risk of being a part of either the receiving end of one of these pump and dumps, or the fact that most of the investors will eventually lose out all their money as it is transferred to those who know how to do that. I'm not advocating you do these things. I'm just saying being aware of this helps you better plan your portfolios. It helps you better plan your money plans, helps you better organize your resources. Again, thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next podcast.